Good morning, there, fellow human. Hope you're doing really, really well in this moment, whatever's alive for you. And welcome back to the Big Sigh. A chance for us all to just slow down and just whatever it is we're doing in this moment, just take a little break to just come back to our hearts, really, and come back to what's real and let go of so much striving and so much effort, and we can just, I guess it's just a space to be for a little bit and bring some kindness and compassion to ourselves, and slowly let go of the feeling like we have to be any different from how we are, just the raw, unfiltered human that we are, no matter how messy. So with that in mind, you're really welcome to join me in just taking a big old sigh together. That would be amazing. So I'm going to take a nice big in breath. Beautiful. It's such a useful practice for me. I really imagine when I'm doing it, really dropping into my heart and that like giving up kind of thing, letting go of the mind's effort. And I notice how much pain I'm in today, and there's some sadness there on the heart, and it's difficult to stay with, I don't really understand it or know what it is, but there's some quite deep pain going on there. And what I've noticed is when I give space to the heart and just to be with it, that often doesn't last that long. I sort of close up again and come into my head, and I guess that's because sometimes it feels uncomfortable or scary to remain open in the heart, It's easier to come into the heart and open spaciously for a moment and then close again, But this experience that we're going through isn't moments. Like we talked about the other day, a moment has a start and an end in my eyes anyway, in my mind. But this whole experience is a continuous, ongoing experience, and I think in order to process, we need to be able to, my understanding is that we need to be able to stay with whatever is there, because it needs to be a process, not a snapshot. So what can happen is sometimes I've noticed I open space for my heart to feel whatever it needs to feel, but then it starts to change, and then I'm really scared of what might come out, where it might go. So I just close the space again. But in order to process the pain, heal the pain, my understanding now is that I need to just open the space and just remain open and allow my heart to continuously pour, or whatever. It doesn't have to be the heart, sensation, a feeling, an emotion, whatever it is. It's like It needs space. It needs continuous, ongoing space. So it's kind of like, what works for me is just to try and sort of just sit alongside the heart and give it that spaciousness to go wherever it needs to go. And yeah, maybe this little corner of YouTube can just be a space for us to lean in to the discomfort and the pain and just to be with it. We spend so much of our time, I certainly do anyway, doing and distracting ourselves and rushing. A mantra that's been a sort of saying that I've just said over and over again that served me so well recently is, what's the rush? And I've been wanting to get a tattoo for a long time, and I don't know, haven't known what it's going to be, but something around what's the rush. Maybe it's the words, what's the rush? I was also thinking a turtle, which kind of represents that slowness and that presence. What's the rush? Why do we actually need? What are we trying to escape from? You know? Why do we need to be somewhere else? And for me, at the moment, that sense of wanting to be somewhere else is wanting to not be with this like pretty intense physical pain I'm in right now. But the reality is, even if staying with it doesn't get rid of it, or doesn't change it, or doesn't do anything with it, the reality is, it's here, whether I like it or not. And right now, I don't think there's anything I can do to change that pain. So I just have to live with this pain, this physical pain, right? And it feels more painful to be with it and to turn towards it. It does, and it's quite scary. I don't know where that goes, but I do know that when I can sit, particularly whilst I'm meditating, it helps just when I'm still. And a big part of my meditation morning practice has been to lean it towards and give love and support to the pain and reframe pain altogether. I've had such a anti-pain, resistance to pain relationship, and that hasn't been so helpful, I don't think, because it's basically stopped me from actually, it's all been effort to escape, in various different ways. Again, I've sort of touched upon this in previous videos, but there's so much depth there, there's so much to talk about when it comes to pain, suffering. Oh, yeah, I can feel it now. Just breathing into it helps. Staying calm, relaxing the body, I find is really useful. Relaxing. I notice that so often the default mode of my body sometimes is holding. It's really trying to hold. So breathing brings me into the pain and gives the pain space, but also helps me to let go and to not hold so much. And if there's any tension, often in the stomach, my stomach is held up quite a lot, and I think that's quite common. So yeah, just if you've got any physical pain, or you're struggling with any discomfort or emotional pain, or anything that you're struggling to be with, then yeah, take this as an invitation, just for a moment. It doesn't have to be a long time. Just explore, just with a sense of curiosity. Can you just let go of all the holding. Maybe you haven't noticed that there's holding going on around it, or maybe you're really aware of it. Just, see if you can just allow the tension, the holding to just release wherever it might be in your body, if you have any. And then in this space of not holding, then just breathe in really slow, deep breaths, and sort of breathe and notice the discomfort, if there is any. Perhaps there isn't. Whatever's there, whatever's real, actually real for you, just breathe into whatever your awareness takes you to. This is a sacred part of the human experience as much as anything else is, needs to be respected and given the attention and love that it's kind of, I guess, calling for or asking for. And I'm conscious right now is, as I'm saying this, it's quite a skill to remain with my own things myself and staying spacious and staying with those feelings as I'm speaking like this. I know that I could go deeper with my pain, but I guess there's a part of me that imagines if I just stop speaking and just stay with the pain, then it wouldn't really be a very entertaining video. Sometimes my body starts doing these shakes when I start sitting with my chronic pain. Often, actually, when I sink into it, really, it's just this energy that feels like it needs to move. And sometimes I'm getting better. I've sort of practiced over the years, and now I'm sort of less embarrassed about it when I'm in public. But I just sort of let myself do the wiggles. But for a long time, I was quite restrained it because I didn't want people to see me wiggling and think that I was, I don't know, having a fit or something. But that's the way that my body, when I let go of trying to control it, wants to express itself, and it just wants to move energy through, It's been doing that for a long time now, and it's just my body's way of sort of processing stuff, I guess. Seems to be a bit of an inexhaustible supply though, so if anyone's got any wisdom around that, then please do feel free to share it. But just remaining with, staying with, without getting involved in whatever the discomfort is. And the sad reality is, it's only through feeling that we can, what's that amazing saying? The only way is through. If we keep running away, escaping from this discomfort and pain, then it'll always be with us. It will literally always be with us. It gets trapped in the body, and all we have to do is allow it to flow through us and not do anything about it, and allow nature to take its course. This phenomenon of being human is a part of nature, as much as the trees and the flowers and the bees and the birds. Just have to allow nature to take its course without our fear and our brains getting involved. Once again this morning I was noticing my brain really try to plan what to say again because of the fear of not knowing what's going to happen, what's going to come out, in the same way that making space for my heart. It's like, I don't know what is going, like, are the floodgates going to totally open, and then am I going to be strong enough or able to face all of that stuff, or to feel all of that stuff that's just going to come tumbling out? the dam's going to burst, and then what? Will I be able to hold that? And that's the fear talking, and that just stops me from opening the dam, and processing the emotions. They'll just stay nice and, held within the dam, behind the dam, if I don't allow the banks to burst. But it's scary, because it's like, God, what the hell is going to happen if I let all of that stuff out? I'm not sure what that stuff is. It's that sense of unknown, and will I be able to hold it? Can I trust myself? Will I just collapse and break down, I remember an ex-girlfriend who's been through a very traumatic life. She explained exactly that. Like, if I open up just a little bit, I don't think I'll ever be able to close again. She said to me something like this. It stayed with me, that real fear of feeling and grieving. And a great teacher of mine, a man called Jayaraja, who's a Buddhist, who's a phenomenally good facilitator and teacher of nonviolent communication, or he calls it mindful communication. He said to me, or he said in a workshop, how we have a crisis of grieving as a race, as a society. We don't allow ourselves to grieve enough, and grief is, in our society, in our Western societies, it's acceptable only to a certain degree. There is a lot of resistance towards grief. You can be sad, but you can grieve, but only in specific situations. But at a funeral, and you're only allowed to grieve for so long. I think there is a danger in falling into that grief that's not actually processing anything. It's kind of resistance in some ways, but true grieving, true allowing. God, we need that to heal. We can't process stuff unless we allow it. As I've said, allow it to flow through and be felt deeply, because that's all it's asking for. It's only asking to be felt, And that stayed with me, that thing that Jayaraja said in that workshop. We've got a crisis of grieving, or a crisis of a lack of grieving. And there's not that, it doesn't feel safe to grieve a lot of the time, and sometimes there aren't spaces to grieve, and it's hard in a society where it's not encouraged, or it doesn't feel that safe to grieve, But we need to. Maybe, this is my little olive branch to you, to just take some time if you need to. To find a space that you feel safe to grieve, and allow yourself to feel it. To really feel it unashamedly. It's hard being human. It's really hard sometimes. And there's no shame in any of it. There's such a narrative around crying, especially for guys. I've had to do a lot of work to feel unashamed of crying. But if you zoom out of all that, I didn't bring any tissues. If you zoom out of all of that conditioning, those stories around crying, all it is just a function of the body and a function of emotion. And without fail, it's a bodily function that allows us to process whatever's going on somatically. And without fail, I feel better. I feel improved after a cry. And it's such a shame. It's a deep sadness that there's such resistance and negativity and shaming around crying. And that's tragedy in and of itself, because it's such a useful, I can even hear my voice being louder, and even that small cry just there, just softened things for me a little bit, We need to cry. Such a big part of processing emotion and healing is crying, and we're afraid to do it because we're afraid of being judged. And I spent many years never crying. It took me a long time. I literally remember there was a moment in my life where I'd first experienced depression. It was my first experience of depression. At the back end of my last year of uni, when I was 21 or something. And I was struggling so much that I remember kneeling down. I was back at my parents' house, kneeling down and had my elbows on my bed in a sort of prayer position. I just kept saying to myself, just cry, just cry, just cry. Having this intuitive knowledge that I needed to cry to process this stuff, but I just couldn't do it. There was too much baggage. There was too much resistance and shame and fear, ultimately fear, to cry. Because it had been so conditioned into me. And that was a moment. It was quite a pivotal moment where I said it was like I kind of had a big sigh. I had one of those sigh moments. Fuck, I need help. Whew. Oh, my poor younger self. Oh, that was a lot of suffering in those days. I need help. That was a big realization. And we do, we're not on our own. Can't do this alone. We need help. We're tribal creatures. We're communal creatures, social animals. It's in our DNA. We can't do these things alone. That was the start of a different path and a different journey, and finding a therapist, and being the start of something new, and starting to meditate. Gosh, I must have been 21, so I must have been meditating for 14, 15 years now. 14 years. And it's so often it's those real depths of despair and suffering that put us on a different trajectory, a different path, because how we are operating in the world is no longer working for us, and to continue to do so would just be guaranteed continued suffering. So perhaps you're one of those people watching who really struggle to cry. Perhaps you're really good at crying and love it. God, I actively try and cry as much as I can these days, and also try and be seen crying. And when I do start crying, when I just cried just there, I really tried to remain open to be seen crying. because that's helped me to reduce my shame around it. No matter what other people's stories around crying are, it's not something that I want to feel any shame or embarrassment about. So my practice, sometimes I can't do it. Sometimes it's too much. It's probably easier to do to camera than it is to do to real people in front of me. But to try and remain open and allow people to see me as I cry, because that really does reduce the shame, the embarrassment, I feel empowered. So yeah, if you're one of those people that struggle to cry, then know that I'm with you, and you have my sympathies and my empathy, my understanding, because I was that person too. But just a gentle encouragement or invitation to just notice the thoughts and what happens when there's an urge to cry, but then the resistance comes in. Just like, what is that resistance? Is that fear? Because I don't think you can go from, like if you're struggling, if you haven't cried for years, for example, particularly lots of men have experienced this. And if you're one of these men, or anyone really, but if you're one of these people who's not cried for years, I don't think you can just go straight from not crying to just crying. It takes gentle allowance over and over again to just go allow a bit further, a bit closer each time. And it takes just becoming aware of the thoughts that occur to us, or the responses that we have in those moments when we sort of want to cry, but we stop ourselves. Like, what happens? What fears come up? Hey, sweetie. Hello. What fears come up for us? What thoughts are occurring to us? Can we notice? Can we just notice what comes up for us? And instead of trying to get to the crying, if that's your end goal, maybe just notice. Let that be your first step, and just each time, just pay attention and be curious about that process of what happens, because there will be like a chain of events that happen, and we can't jump straight to the start of the chain. Usually we only it's like when you catch yourself, this has been my experience anyway, certainly like learning this while meditating, instead of trying to get to the end goal, just notice what's happened after that, or what has been the most recent thing in the chain of events, and focus on just becoming aware of that. It's a really useful practice. I think I covered it in a previous video. But because I realised I can't jump straight to the start of the chain, whatever it is, I need to address how I've related to that to begin with. An example of a chain of events might be something reminds me of, let's say, my dad, who very sadly is not well, and he's not living with us anymore. He's in a home, and it is so sad. It's tragic. I love him dearly, and I've been grieving for many years. It's been a slow process. So let's say something reminds me of Dad, and what may happen. I mean, I'm trying to give an example actually of when I couldn't cry. So perhaps I'll make this up, but it'll be close to my own experience in my past life, So something reminds me of Dad, comes up. I then feel a real pang inside me. I then don't want to feel that. So I resist, and then I start thinking, And then I think, why can't I just cry? And then I start making a story about myself. God, you're so rubbish, or, you're so blocked, you're so emotionally repressed. And then it's like, at what point of the chain of events can I catch myself and notice, I just said to myself, I'm so rubbish and I'm so stuck. Interesting. And in the noticing, can I just break the chain of events, break the cycle, and just stop myself from continuing to identify and make stories? And then slowly, with practice, you get closer to the start of the chain of events until you can really just allow yourself to feel without doing anything about it. And it's hard. It's like a life's practice. It takes a lifetime. Maybe it's something that can never be mastered. I don't know. I suspect it can be. It's possible, but I'm not sure. I'd also like to say it's possible to feel it now. You don't necessarily have to do this chain of events thing. Like, that possibility exists as well. It's just it's very, very difficult. Maybe, if you think it's difficult. But it can be a challenge. I just want to recognise that, and just to say that possibility exists. It just takes courage, a lot of courage. And if you do it there's a word called titration, which I love. It's this idea of slowly just doing things step by step, sort of dipping in and then coming out again. Dipping in just a little further and then coming out again at your own pace, and just, and that seems to be more a long-term fix. I've been for many years a kind of shortcut guy, try to get to the start of the chain of events, and in a desperate attempt to escape the suffering, I've tried to get to the end goal straight away. Trying to do a long jump when the goal is, a kilometre away, instead of just taking steps each day, slowly getting towards my goal. So yeah, really, I guess this has been about grief in many ways, and allowing our heart the space it needs to just feel. If we do want to, the only way to escape, what I realise, is to just not escape. Is to be alongside without doing anything with it. And God, it's hard. It's really hard. Intense pain, particularly. I can speak from personal experience. But it does, locking into that spaciousness where we're breathing into it and we're not doing anything with it. It does change the experience. It might not get rid of the pain, or it might get rid of the pain, It might actually process the pain. But it usually does change the experience in some way. And in some way that's relieving. It can even weirdly be more pain, but because the way that I'm relating to it is different, the way that I'm experiencing it is different, then there's so much less suffering. Yeah, again, I've spoken about this before, but it's that Buddhist principle, and I'm sure many other... The birds are waking up. Many other practices as well in schools of thought is There's a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is unavoidable, but suffering is something that we choose. And the Buddhists talk about the two arrows. The first arrow we can't do anything about, but we shoot ourselves with a second arrow. By choice. And it's that second arrow that we can stop shooting. And I've heard the Dalai Lama say that in the West we also have a third arrow, which apparently they don't have over there, which is essentially shame. So in some ways you might say the first arrow is pain. The second arrow is trying to escape from the pain. And the third arrow is like making a story about ourselves, a painful story about ourselves, through the fact that we've just had these two arrows, if that makes sense. That's sort of how I understand it anyway. It's quite a nice analogy. We're just sort of, there's so many arrows, it's so much pain. We can just have one and accept that that level of pain is just an unavoidable part of this human experience. And every human being experiences pain. I've just been on, that's reminded me. I've just been about a month ago now on a Taoist retreat in Wales at this amazing retreat centre called Spirit Horse, led by a dear friend of mine, just wonderful human being. Got a lot of love for him. He's called George Thompson. He's on YouTube. He does brilliant videos. Check him out. He's helped me so much. And one of his sayings is, to hurt, I'll just share this with you. To hurt is to be human. Oh God, I've forgotten it now. What is it? That's so funny. To hurt is to be human. I've forgotten the second one. But it's basically, our balance is possible. Practice is the path. To hurt is to be human. Balance is possible. And practice is the path. But that first piece, to hurt is to be human, it's just part of our whole experience. And balance for me is what comes with that is we can allow all of these different parts. Yeah, there's obviously balance can mean so many things, but to me in this moment, the relevance of it is allowing the pain to exist and allowing the joys to exist without firing the second or the third arrows, you know? But we're so used to doing that, we can't just suddenly click our fingers and be free of all that suffering. So we need to practice. We need to meditate. We need to do these daily things in order to achieve balance. And he's a great Tai Chi, Qigong practitioner, George. Do check him out. His teachings and his compassion is really transforming my life, and I've got a depth of gratitude to George. So if you ever watch this, George, I've said it many times, but thank you, brother. And I was thinking this morning, I went to bed last night singing. So from the retreat, we have this WhatsApp group, and someone posted a link to one of the videos, a video to a song that we sang on the retreat that I've heard before, but I just love it. And I watched this, and I heard this amazing version of it on YouTube. And the song is "The Way Knows the Way" by Lindsay Scott. And it's an incredible medicine song. It goes like this. I'll sing it. You don't have to know the way knows the way. You don't have to plan the way, trust the way, feel your way, the way he knows, the way he knows, the way he knows, the way. Ah, such a powerful, powerful song. And I went to bed singing it last night, and as often happens, I wake up with the energy of whatever was with me, what was ever present with me as I was going to sleep. And my brain processes stuff during the night. It's a really good way to compose songs and music, actually, for me. Waking up and I just suddenly had all these ideas about an arrangement of that song that I'd like to do, which is really cool. But the reason why I bring this in is because our hearts know the way. And it's us stepping in to try and pull the strings and take control that stops the heart from processing. You know, the heart is part of the way, the Tao. Our bodies are part of the Tao, you know. They know what to do. Our gut knows what to do. We just have to give it space and allow it to be. And at the moment, again, inspired by that retreat, I've started reading the Tao Te Ching, which is something that I would massively recommend, and listening to Wayne Dyer's work as well. Gosh, he's an incredible human. Was an incredible human. But yeah, it's been really instructive and helpful. Taoism is something I'm really, really appreciating, and yeah, finding it rings so true in my life. Anyway, I could keep talking about lots of different subjects and rambling on here, but I'll draw it to a close. Thank you again, as always. If you're still watching this, like, I'm just so, my mind is blown if you're still watching. I'm feeling really so grateful to you for sticking around and listening to this. Helps me to feel really nourished and like these things are worthwhile and helping people. And yeah, just feeling a lot of love in my heart, even though I don't know you or haven't talked to you or met you perhaps. There's a sense of love and gratitude in my heart. So thank you. And if you did feel like subscribing and commenting and liking and sharing, I'd be really touched and honoured. And yeah, can help these videos reach more people. You know, as you know we've all done YouTube to death. You know the shtick. But yeah, just remember, just this is just an invitation, as most of these videos seem to become, just an invitation to step into that heart space and just try and stay there. Allow it to be a process rather than a snapshot, a moment, a continual pouring of the heart, like a hose pipe. A friend of mine talks about the hose pipe and how really to process things we just have to be a continuous flow through the hose, but so often we add kinks and stop the flow. It's a really nice analogy. So yeah, go well, have a really good day, be kind to yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And as always, happy humaning.